Hello, Hive. Welcome to our next session of Mudhouse Sabbath. Today we're talking about the body. If you will, let's just take a moment to get ourselves kind of centered and calm. All right, so I don't know about you, but I imagine that many of you are feeling super all kinds of things right now, and so I hope that you can just take a moment to be in this space. And there's actually going to be a little bit of homework this week for this particular one that I hope you'll enjoy, and that will be just something that's for you to help you decompress and decompose from all that's going on in the world right now. So picking up on Mudhouse Sabbath, this chapter was really, really awesome because what it talks about is that connection to the spirit and the body, and how Judaism has really recognized that the body is really important and an important part of who we are, because we're embodied people. We're not just spiritual people. And so one of the things that Lauren points out, having really missed as a Christian, is those prayers and different things that remind you that you are embodied and that your body is important. So she talks a little bit about some of the different kind of prayers that Jewish people have for their bodies. There are prayers about eating. There are prayers that you do before you go to the bathroom. There's prayers of thanks before having sex. There are lots of things to remind you that your body is important. And she talks about how the reason for that is we often recognize God through pleasure. And that's something that another group I'm in is talking a lot about, and has been kind of mind-opening to me, because as a woman of a particular Christian faith, I've often been taught that my body is bad, or that I shouldn't feel pleasure. And so she talks about the importance of pleasure because it connects us to God. There's a quote that says, Rabbi Abraham Slonim taught, contrary to what you might think, it's possible sometimes for one to come closer to God when you're involved in material things like eating and drinking than when you're involved with religious activities like Torah and prayer. Because when the heart opens up due to pleasure, then is the fit time to come close to holiness. And she says that the point is that God has revealed himself to us in lots of different physical ways, and that God is creator, and that creation is a physical thing. She says it's no accident that Jewish prayers relating to the body acknowledge above all God as creator. The prayer to be uttered before sex thanks God for creating pleasure. Similarly, the blessing recited before going to the bathroom thanks God for creating in me many orifices and many cavities. It's obvious and known before your throne of glory that if one of them were to be ruptured or one of them blocked, it would be impossible for a man to survive and stand before you. Jews can be present in their bodies because they have a story, a doctrine of creation. So the questions today are really about, how do you relate to your body? And in particular, why is it that Christians seem to really struggle with being embodied? There's actually this whole segment of Christianity where there's been a struggle with this. There's actually this heretical thing that the early church leaders struck down as heretical when people tried to separate the body from the spirit. But we still try to do that all the time. And I don't know about you, but my temptation right now during all this stuff with coronavirus is to work so hard trying to connect people, and trying to school my kids who are just through that door in there, and trying to make sure that my husband is taken care of because he's not feeling well, and make sure that all the boxes are checked, that it's really easy for me to neglect my body and not to give it what it needs. So I think that's an important thing for us to think about all the time, is how are we attending to our bodies, and are we upholding our mind and our spirit above our bodies? Okay, so some of the questions from the study guide kind of relate to that, and I thought they were really helpful. She talks about the Apostle Paul, who wrote that, do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, which you have from God, and that you are not your own, for you were bought with a price, therefore glorify God in your body. So the question here is, if you really did recognize and really truly believe that your body is made in the image of God and that it's a temple of the Spirit, how might you practice that? What would it mean to allow God to inhabit your body? And what would that mean for how you treat your body and how you experience your body? The next question is really about how limited might you feel right now. There's a lot of people who are sick right now, or who are really afraid of being sick, or maybe when we get another illness, we're afraid that it's the coronavirus, and we're legitimately afraid that either we might die or that we might pass something on to someone that would be harmful to them or even cause them to die. It's a real fear. Like, reading this book now is different than I think it would have been reading it a few weeks ago. So the question is, do you ever wrestle with the limitation of your body and your health? What's the most frustrating thing to you about that? Have you ever thought in the moments of your limitation that your body is still, as Lauren says, glowing with a measure of the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead? How can you live within the tension of having a fallible, limited body and a body that's connected to the Spirit of God and to the resurrection of Jesus? And, Christians believe that we'll all be resurrected and that we're actually going to be in these bodies forever. So what would it mean to practice what you believe? Let's see. Another question she had before your homework is, in the Old Testament in particular, there are some stories about Jesus being embodied, not about Jesus being embodied, about God being embodied. And there are two in particular that she mentions. One is when Jacob has this dream, or maybe it really happens, where he's wrestling. And his interpretation of this is that he's wrestling with God. He won't let God go until God blesses him. And when God finally lets Jacob go, he's been blessed, but he has like a limp. So to remind him that this thing really happened. The other story is one of my absolute favorites, and it's when Abraham and Sarah, who were an old couple who'd been promised a child, but they were very old. The child hadn't come yet. It didn't seem like it was going to happen. It seemed very physically impossible. Not only were they older, but Sarah had always been infertile. And so these three beings, these three men, it seems, visit, and they tell Abraham that within a year, your wife will bear you a son. And his wife, Sarah, just starts laughing. And a year comes to pass, and sure enough, she gets pregnant and she has a son, and she names him Isaac, which means laughter. And the interpretation of this story among Christians and Jews is that these three visitors are God. Christians in particular might even go so far as to say that this was Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. But, God was embodied somehow, no matter how you might interpret that. And so what would it mean for you, for your relationship with God, if you saw God as something embodied, as someone who is embodied rather than just spirit? Because we're always talking about how God isn't this, white man with a long beard, old guy in the sky. That's harmful theology, right? But sometimes, because we are trying not to make God in our image, and we make God just into spirit, which God is spirit, but we lose something there. So what would it mean for you to see God as embodied? And in the Christian faith, we have Jesus, who was and is to come embodied. Okay, so ready for your homework. I'm super excited about this. All right, so one of our fellow Hive members, and actually one of the leaders on the Hive, I'm going to shout out to Sarah. I might even tag her here. I think she's going to get on and do some embodied prayers with us soon. But one of the things that she's taught me is about using your body to pray. And she actually led the Hive leaders in a little exercise of this earlier today. But what would it mean for you to pray with your body? Whether that means feeling your chest, whether it means dancing, whether it means getting angry and hitting a pillow. What would it mean if you actually did that? So your homework this week, first homework, is to to pray with your body. Go in a room, shut the door, dance, sing, hit something, jump up and down, whatever it takes to get out those prayers. The second one I'm very excited about because I'm craving this, honestly. In the study guide, she tells the story, trying to find it. I can't find it, but she tells the story of a rabbi who talks about taking a pious bath, about how part of our worship of God is caring for our bodies. And so your homework actually is going to be, go take care of your body by taking a bath or a shower, and a long one. Can you find the space to go shut the door, shut the family out for a little bit, shut the roommates out, and can you create that space? Can you find 20 minutes? Can you find 30? Can you shut the door? Can you take care of your body? Can you bathe it? Can you shower it? Can you put lotion on? Can you do all those things to care for your body? And then how does it make you feel when you're done? So your homework is pray with your body and then go bathe your body and relax. All right. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week. And next week we'll be talking about the next chapter, which is fasting. So we will talk about fasting next week. All right. See you later.